After the instrumental break, there's another middle eight, essentially as before, followed by another verse, essentially as before, except that it becomes extended, kind of like a tag. Now, I won't call it a solo. It's not exactly an instrumental break. Let's get down to business. It's just a variation on what you've heard before. Let me demonstrate. In the final 8 bars of The Young Ones, Hank plays quite a repetitive figure, which, as I say, is reminiscent of the intro. Here it is. Coming in on beat 2, 2, 3, 4, 1. As you may have just gathered, the outro section is reminiscent of the intro, with the exception of there being a bend, which is on the 2nd string, 10th fret. Now, country players would generally bend that a whole tone, like one of Hank's heroes, James Burton. But on this occasion, it's not quite that countrified, it's a bit more bluesy, it has a blues edge. That is, as you may know if you're a blues fan, it's in the cracks. Now, what I mean by in the cracks, technically speaking, as a music teacher, is quarter tones. I could actually say 3/4 because it doesn't bend a whole tone, it's 3/4 of a whole tone. To be clear, that's a semitone bend and a bit more. Does that make sense? In the cracks. Okay, and what you do at first is bend that as a grace note. Remember I mentioned a grace note earlier, or acciaccatura, means crushing. You crush the note as a bend, but slightly under the pitch of B. Let's be clear about this. That's the 3rd finger on the 10th fret, 2nd string. You immediately bend it up. You do hear the A note very briefly, but you bend it up immediately and then cut it off, staccato. Then you hold that. In fact, you haven't let go of it. Can you see that? I'm holding the bend, which will be very brief, so it shouldn't be painful. And then it's a fraction higher. I do believe Hank, quite naturally, he wouldn't have contrived it. He would have naturally just bent a fraction higher, as in, like I say, it's not quite country, it's a little bit more bluesy. And then he releases the bend as follows. Coming in on beat 2, swiftly, 3, 4, and 1. And then the G notes are as played before. And as you heard in my demo just a few moments ago, it's that phrase 3 times. It really is virtually identical 3 times, as in 1. Okay, we're just about done here. In the last 2 bars, Hank plays a countrified lick, which I believe is at the 10th fret position. He plays on beat 2 of the penultimate bar as follows. E on the top string at the 12th fret, down to D at the 10th fret. That is surely with fingers 3 and 1. And then I would assert that he plays the following A note with his index finger at the 10th fret. My rationale there is that we hear a semitone bend as follows. And then there's a slide. I'm quite certain there's a slide. And then he plays the E note on the 9th fret of the G string. That's... Makes sense, doesn't it? Watch that again. Coming in on beat 2, 3, 4, and 1. And finally, he plays a D shape, as in a regular D, but on an F sharp, which, as I'm sure you will expect, goes up to G. And he doesn't restrike it, he just... And that's fairly in time. To be truthful, it's very slightly late. By which I mean, it's not bang on beat 1, it's just a hair late. But he slides that D shape up. So that last lick, including the concluding or resolving lick, 3, 4, 1. And then the song fades. And that concludes our look at The Young Ones.